Imagine you are at work, ready to support a client with his big presentation. He sent you the files ahead of time. You organized everything exactly as planned. You are even the one running the slides for him. But when he walks in, he's furious. He can't find his files, and suddenly you are the one who sabotaged him. You didn't do anything wrong. He just forgot how the process works. So you calmly try to explain. Walk him through exactly what happened, and that's when he starts yelling. Because for some people, it's easier to explode than to admit they made a mistake. At this point, bringing logic into the room is the worst idea. So how do you handle this situation? Let's look at another example. September 30th, 1993. A brisk autumn morning in Brooklyn, New York.
It began around 8:30 this morning when 3 employees, including a security guard, were accosted by the gunman as they were entering the bank.
2 masked men storming to the Chase Manhattan Bank at 7th Avenue and Carroll Street. They trigger a silent alarm, and within minutes, everything falls apart. Police flood the scene. The robbers are trapped inside with 3 hostages, 2 bank tellers and a security guard. The block is surrounded. There is no way out. Inside, the lead robber is panicked, furious, and completely out of options. He gets on the phone with the command post, screaming, demanding a van to drive himself out of there. The first negotiator do what most of us would do. They try to use logic. They explain why the demands can't be met. They try to reason with him. It doesn't work. Because his brain threat center, the amygdala, is completely hijacked. He's in primal fight or flight mode. And when the human brain is in that stage, logic doesn't sound like reason. It sounds like rejection. It sounds like a threat. That's when the FBI brings Chris Voss, a young negotiator on his very first real hostage call. Voss takes the phone, and he abandons logic entirely. He uses a calm, slow, downward inflecting tone, designed to physically lower the tension on the other end of the line. When the robber talks, Voss mirrors him, reflecting his last few words back to make him feel heard. Then he listens past the screaming, identifies the real emotion underneath, and names it out loud. He doesn't argue about the van. He doesn't offer a deal. He validates the fear. And something shifts. 9 hours after it began, the first robber walks out, unarmed. The second follows shortly after. No injuries, not a single shot fired. The police didn't compromise, and they didn't win by force. They used tactical empathy to reach past the panic and bring a rational human being back online. My name is Gabo, and this is the Art of Listening podcast. In the last video, we talked about negotiation, the flaws in winning and compromising, and how to shift your perspective to uncover underlying interests. But those tactics don't work in a situation where the other party is difficult, unreasonable, or hostile. In our 2 examples, both the client and the robber had the same thing happening in their brain. One felt his reputation was under attack, the other felt trapped. This is a biological response. In that state, it doesn't matter how right you are. It doesn't matter how calm you stay. The moment you try to reason with them, their brain registers it as an attack. When your counterparty isn't interested in collaboration, you need a completely different approach. When someone feels threatened, whether the threat is physical danger or a bruised ego, the brain's alarm system fires. The amygdala takes over. And this happens fast, faster than conscious thought. It doesn't stop to ask, is this a real threat? It doesn't weigh the evidence. It just reacts. And here's what makes this so difficult to deal with. The amygdala cannot tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger, the ego threat of a misplaced presentation file, or the existential weight of a bank surrounded by SWAT teams. To the brain, a threat to your reputation, your status, or your sense of control is perceived as danger, and it responds accordingly. This is called the amygdala hijack. And it doesn't just happen to difficult people. It doesn't just happen to bank robbers. It happens to all of us. Every time we feel cornered, embarrassed, or dismissed, the same system begins to fire. The scale of the situation may change, but the biology doesn't. So what do most of us do when someone is acting irrationally? We explain. We justify. We lay out the facts calmly and clearly because we believe that if they just understood the situation, they would calm down. But here is a problem. When the amygdala is hijacked, the rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, goes quiet. It's not processing information the way it normally would. It's not weighing your argument. It's scanning for danger. To a hijacked brain, a calm logical explanation sounds like this. You are wrong. I'm right. Let me prove it. This feels like a challenge or an attack. It's the same reason the first negotiators failed with the bank robber. They were right. Their logic was sound. But every rational sentence they delivered felt like an attack, and the robber escalated. It's the same reason explaining yourself to the furious client makes things worse. The more correct you are, the more threatened they feel. Logic doesn't fail because it's wrong. It fails because the person in front of you isn't ready to receive it. If logic makes these situations worse, then what are we supposed to do? First, stop trying to be right. Instead, start trying to make them feel understood. This is the part that most people get wrong, because it feels like failure. If I acknowledge that he's angry, am I telling him he's right to be angry? If I validate her fear, am I agreeing with her demands? Well, no. Validation and agreement are not the same thing. When Chris Voss got to the phone with that bank robber, he didn't tell him the van was a good idea. He didn't pretend the situation wasn't serious. He named what the robber was feeling. He made him feel hurt. That's it. And the moment a person feels genuinely understood, something changes within them. The amygdala loosens its grip, and the rational brain starts to come back. And suddenly, for the first time, there's actually someone to negotiate with. Think about the presentation client. He didn't need you to apologize for something you didn't do. He didn't need you to agree that you failed him. He needed to feel like his panic was real to someone else in the room. You can give someone that without giving them anything else. Acknowledge the emotion. Don't concede the argument. Tactical empathy isn't just a mindset, nor is just a communication style. It's a physiological intervention. A slow, calm, downward inflecting tone of voice directly impacts the nervous system of the person you speak to. It slows their breathing, it lowers their heart rate. It signals, this is not a fight. Mirroring the words triggers a neurological response. It makes the other person feel seen in a way that logic alone can't. Your voice is a tool. Your pacing is a tool. The way you enter a room, the way you let silence sit. These are all tools that directly affect another person's biology. This is why empathy is one of the most precise and powerful instruments available in any high-stake conversation. You need to help the other person feel human again. When they feel human again, they can think. And when they can think, they can find a way out. That's what tactical empathy does. It doesn't just change the conversation. It changes the person you are having it with. The next time you are in a room with someone who is furious, panicked, or completely shut down, remember this. They are not being difficult. They are not being irrational. They are having a biological response that was designed to keep them alive. And no amount of logic will reach them there. But what will reach them is a calm voice, mirrored words, and a sentence that says, I see you. Not just because it's the kind thing to do, but because it works. If you haven't watched my previous video on the fundamentals of negotiation, make sure you go watch that next. Also, I'm currently working on putting together an online workshop all about negotiation. If you're interested in becoming a better negotiator, sign up for the waitlist at the link in the description. I'm Gabo. See you next time.